Miss River. Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start out in 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Command and General Yohana. The Friday Night Lashawan Qadash class where we break down the scriptures from a linguistics perspective, something that your Christian pastor is ill-equipped to do because he has no interest in teaching Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans their true culture and identity according to the Bible. I mean, what you fail to realize is that your language is a crucial part of understanding your culture and identity, understanding who you are. You know what I mean? So that's why, no wonder, your Christian pastors, they stumble over the reason why they have such big misunderstandings about the Bible. I mean, is over words. They read words like Gentile in Greek or Jew or brother or neighbor. They read simple words like that, and that leads to gross misunderstandings to the Bible. You know what I mean, so no wonder they have these gross misunderstandings because they completely negate the language. You know what I mean? So, uh, so that's why the language is so important. So, that's why we had this class every Friday. So if you got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If you got any questions in the room, go ahead, ask them. This is what it's for. So that we can so that we can really understand this Bible from, in its entirety and get our oppressors' language out of our mouths. So that we can stop having these gross misunderstandings so that Christianity has no power over us. That's the big thing. You talk to any Christian and you ask them about John 3:16, and they're going to tell you, "For God so loved the world," and they're going to think that world means everybody. It means when Black people say everybody, we only think of our oppressor. Like in our out of our mouths, we say everybody. For God so loved the world. Out of our mouths, we say everybody, but really in our mind, because of captivity, we think the first thing we think about is our oppressor. When it says, "For God so loved the world," for God so loved the one that had you in captivity, so that you don't ever have to think about uh justice for your people. We don't ever have to think about justice for our people. Because justice is, freedom is difficult. Freedom is uncomfortable. So we don't have to think about that uncomfortable thing. We don't have to think about justice. We don't have to think about separation, which is also uncomfortable. We don't have to think about, being bold. Because, here in the ISUPK, we we openly call out our oppressors' crimes and the things they've done to us. And we openly are separated from our oppressor. And for that, we're on the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. We're labeled as a hate group and we're hated amongst our own people and amongst our enemies. That's a very uncomfortable thing. So to get out of that discomfort, it's easier to just say, "For God so loved the world" means everybody. But we can go into those scriptures that shows that when it says, "For God so loved the world," that's not talking about everybody in the world. That's not talking about a planet. That's not talking about every other nation. But this ain't the scripture breakdown class. This is the Lashawan Qadash class. But that just goes to show how important the language is. And if you misunderstand one word or one phrase, I mean, it could throw off your entire understanding of the Bible, where you go from loving your own brother to loving your enemy. You combine the misinterpretation of one word with the agenda of your oppressor, then now you got Christianity. Now you got a whole doctrine that makes the slave love the slave master. So again, if you got any questions, you got any comments, put them in the chat, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that QR code in the corner. If you got any questions outside of class, if it's 2 a.m, you got a question, or you want to just, you know what I mean, you got a question, preferably, you got that QR code in the corner. You go ahead and hit it at any time. You ain't gotta wait until Monday through Friday from 7 to 9, or you ain't gotta wait till Monday through the Friday 7 to 9 to ask your question. You can go ahead and ask any question or say anything in that chat if you hit that QR code. You know what I mean? But with that, you know what I mean, we're gonna go ahead and pick up from last week where we left off. We're gonna pick up from Genesis chapter 41 and verse 31, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we left off where uh during Sabbath service, just to give a little recap. During Sabbath service, we go into the scriptures in the Hebrew and break it down into English. Friday Lashawan Qadash class is a little different where we break it down in the Hebrew, or we break it down in the English, or we have the opportunity rather to read it in the English and then break it down in the Hebrew. However, you know what I mean, however you need it to be broken down. So I mean, if it's easier to read it in the English first, then we can do that. If you got any specific questions on any particular part, you can ask the particular questions. Uh, Friday night Lashawan Qadash class is, you know what I mean, to your advantage. So I would definitely ask your questions and, you know what I mean, and all of that. This is what this is for. Saturday Sabbath service or Friday night Lashawan Qadash class is a preparation for Sabbath service. So, you know what I mean, it will behoove you to ask your questions and participate and pay attention during Lashawan Qadash class so that you are prepared. Because if you're a priest or aspiring priest in the ISUPK, you're going to be required to do what you see these brothers do every week, which is read the Lashawan Qadash and break it down in English as well. You know what I mean, it's not very hard to do unless you're, you know what I mean, unless you're just not prepared. So Friday is where you get prepared. All right. So with that, you know what I mean, we're gonna get right into it. Make sure you got all your learning utensils, your pen, your notebook, and all of that. Make sure you got a concordance. Make sure you got your Bible hub open in front of you. Make sure you got a physical Bible with you. Of course, you know what I mean, you can get all these utensils on your phone, and of course, you don't have to use all these resources at once. But you know what I mean, to be the most diligent student that you possibly can be, it wouldn't hurt to have all of them in a physical copy. But you, of course, again, could have them all on your phone. All right. And it'll definitely be, especially if you're a new student in Lashawan Qadash, it'll definitely be helpful to you. All right. But I mean, we're gonna get right into the Hebrew. Uh so again, so we left off in Genesis chapter 41 where Joseph was in prison. He was in prison and the Most High gifted him with the ability to interpret dreams. He interpreted two people's dreams that was thrown in or in ward rather. So he was in ward, right? So he was awaiting a judgment, right, for alleged crime. So he was in ward with two other people who was awaiting a judgment for their alleged crimes as well. And they both had dreamed, and he had interpreted their dream. And I believe it was a butler and a baker. So the butler, his dream was interpreted to where he would come out of prison and go back to his duty as a butler, and the baker would be hanged. And then lo and behold, uh, that came to pass. So he asked he told him to remember Joseph when he went back to Pharaoh so that he can get out because Joseph was trying to get out. He had forgot for the butler who was returned to his duty forgot for a time, but then Pharaoh started to have dreams. And after Pharaoh started having dreams, then the butler remembered Joseph, and uh Joseph is now interpreting the dreams of Pharaoh. So that's where we left off right here in Genesis 41 and 31. All right, so there's the book of Genesis, chapter 41, verse 31, just to give a little context of what we're about to read. I'm going to read verse 30. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. 31. And the plenty shall not be known in the land, by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. Verse 32. And for that the dream was double unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. And this is just the, you know what I mean, I don't want to, you know what I mean, sidebar too much, but it's pretty heavy because we're looking at, you know what I mean, we're looking at this right now. Like the Bible is full of prophecies. The Bible is full of stories and prophecies uh that predict that have always predicted what will happen, you know what I mean, in the last days, and you know what I mean, at the times that we're living in right now. And right now we living in, you know what I mean, in the middle of World War III, you know what I mean? And it says in verse 31, the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. Right. So what you don't understand, like what we ignore the truth nowadays. Like we ignore, like, you know what I mean, these priests and prophets go out on the corners every week. Some brothers, you know what I mean, several times a week. And you know what I mean, teach brothers. We teach classes 7 days a week. And we teach brothers and sisters the truth according to the Bible. We go out and do street interviews and do all sorts of things. We in city council meetings, and you know what I mean, go to events and all sorts of stuff. We hold food drives and all sorts of things, trying to teach brothers and sisters the truth according to the Bible. But you know what I mean, we don't our it's hard to it's hard for us to reach our people, because our people are enjoying the times that are good. Like Joseph predicted right here. He said there'll be 7 good years where there'll be plenty food, right? You can go to HEB and get plenty food. You can go to Walmart, go to Randall's, and go to Costco and Sam's Club and get plenty food. And you know what I mean? You got plenty transportation. You can get Uber or Lyft, or you know what I mean? You got plenty things accessible to you right now. But what he said is that the 7 years of good time, the 7 good years wouldn't be remembered for the 7 years of famine. And that's what's coming to America, where those years where those stores were stocked to the brim with food, and you was able to just get on your phone and order DoorDash and you know what I mean, Grubhub and all of that. Those times when you was able to do that, those things are going to be forgotten for the times of famine. You know what I mean? And that's what's happening right now, and that's what happened then. But you know what I mean? Bye. But I mean, that's exactly what you're looking at, and that's why it's so important to understand these scriptures. But we're gonna go ahead and get into the Hebrew as well. Go ahead and break it down. All right, but that's the, you know what I mean, that's the context behind it. You know what I mean, Joseph is interpreting this dream, and we'll see how this go for him. All right, so you go to Bible Hub. Of course, you go to the interlinear section. You open a Bible Hub, it's going to have 6 sections. The last one is going to be the interlinear section, which is going to give you the Hebrew to English, right? Which is what you see on the screen. Let me make sure that's there appropriately. All right. And then you'll be able to follow along, read the Hebrew. If you got any questions or anything like that, you'll be able to or if you having trouble either pronouncing or interpreting or whatever the case is with each individual phrase, then you'll be able to click on each concordance code and it'll help you out. Remember what we was talking about last week is the 4 steps that you'll be able to follow to lock in. Let me just see if I can find it real quick. All right, you should see on the board the 4 steps that you will follow on for the Lashawan Qadash. Each phrase that you're gonna be reading is gonna follow these 4 steps. So it's gonna have, again, it's not gonna necessarily have each one of these steps particularly, but it's gonna have any combination. So it might have one step, a combination of two, a combination of three, a combination of four, or you know what I mean, anywhere in between. It might have a root and a tense. It might have a root and a possessive, a root and a preposition, you know what I mean, so on and so forth. Or all four. But looking at the interlinear, like as I shared my screen, looking at the interlinear, if you click on that concordance code, it'll separate. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna click on this first one before I read it. Click on this first one right here, and it's gonna do exactly what I just said. So the root word is uh the code 3808 la ah, which means no or not, right? Which means a negative. It's a word that's used to negate something. So it means no, not, or it's a word that's used to negate something. So you know that that's your root word. So now, since you know that that's your root word, the character in front of it is a preposition because according to, and I'm gonna be flipping back and forth between the board and the Bible Hub, but you know that because a preposition comes before the root word. Again, when we read in Lashawan Qadash, it's read from right to left. So the word or the character that's on the right side is the beginning of the phrase. All right. You know, your prepositions come before your root word. And that's the benefit of using Bible Hub. All right. So you open a Bible Hub and each phrase has this concordance code above it. So, uh, so this phrase right here, before I read, I'm gonna read the whole thing, and then we're gonna go back and comb through it. But this phrase right here is wa la ah. But if you click the concordance code, it just says la ah, like we just went over a second ago, which is no, not, or to negate something. All right. So you know this means no or not, or to negate. You got the word not right here. All right. So that just leaves this right here that's unaccounted for, the wa, right? That's how easy the Hebrew is. You go back to your note, you know that according to the four steps, a preposition comes before the root word, which means why is a preposition. The why means, you look at your notes, it means and, you connect it to the root word, which is la'ah, it's and not, or and no, or and negate, right? Right. Just to keep it in sync with what we got here, we're gonna go with not. So and not. I know it says so not in the English, but the direct translation according to the Hebrew is and not, which it really means the same thing. Right? Wa la'ah. Right. Like, I'm gonna read the whole thing real quick. So wa la'ah, like it. Wa la'ah, wa, it's like a Yawadai, Hashabai, Baratazah, Ma, it's like a Mapanya, Harai, Hawa'a, Acharya, Khan, Kaya, Kabot, it's like it, Kabad, Salaki, Hawa'a, Ma'ad, Salaki. Just to you know, what I mean, just explain. When I pause, sometimes I'll see a word that I recognize, and it'll make me think about it. So to lock it for that. But that's what's going on, just so you can, I mean, know what the hell's going on. But and it's good to do that as well. Not necessarily when you're reading, you know what I mean, but it's good to recognize words that or it's when you see words, it's good to recognize them and be able to relate them to, you know what I mean, brothers' names. And so that's what I was thinking about as well. I saw a word in the in the in the in the paragraph or It's like in a verse that was reading and related to a brother's name. That'll help you remember a word, right? Uh, using brothers' names or using, you know what I mean, sight words. Like we, for the past couple months, we've been going over certain topics or certain, it's certain specific topics. Those will help you as well. You know what I mean? So if there's anything that we go over tonight, I'm gonna be going over them as well. Again, I just read it straight through. We're gonna be breaking it down line by line, but uh if there's anything that should stand out, I'll go ahead and just kind of touch on it and give a recap of why it should stand out. But we're going to be referring to the concept that we went over. So the the numbers, the characters, like and their what's it called? Their pictographs. You know what I mean? We just mentioned numbers, so ordinal numbers and cardinal numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Right? Those are going to be slightly different, but it's important to know both of those. Right? Those will help you out a lot just reading the Hebrew. So where you ain't got to do a lot of thinking and pausing when you're reading through. As you can see on the, as a matter of fact, let me share it as well. As you can see it on the board, uh, the words or the formal words for I, you, he, she, we, y'all, and they. You know what I mean? Being able to recognize those as well. That'll help you. That'll help you be able to recognize just be able to recognize things off of sight. What else? Lock you. I believe a brother's been doing lessons on colors. Uh what else? You know what I mean? Things like that, just concepts like that. You know what I mean? I don't really have time to go through all of them. I mean, you should absolutely have them in your notes. And if you don't have them, you could just put them in the chat and ask about what concept you would like to know so that you can build your vocabulary. Or you could just look on YouTube and find each concept, ISUPK, and then type the ISUPK Lashawan Qadash, and then type the concept, and then the concept should pop up. Or if the concept doesn't pop up for whatever reason, the teacher hasn't touched on it, you could just ask. And then now, boom, the class is tailored to what you want to learn. Because if you don't, you know what I mean, if you don't put in the chat or if you don't put in the chat or say what you would like to learn specifically, you know what I mean, we just gonna teach a general class for the public. But what you want to do is like these classes again. You know what I mean? We've been teaching the truth since 1969. This ain't no secret, and it's for free. You know what I mean? So where we've been teaching black people for free since 1969. So if you want to learn something for free, you know what I mean? That's what they teach you in college. I mean, you got all these tutors and you got all these resources and all of that. I mean, you pay. You know, they encourage you to utilize them because you're paying for it. I mean, here in the ISUPK, we encourage you to utilize the resources and all these tutors and all of that, and you're not paying for it. I mean, you could just ask, what does this mean? What does that mean? What is this about? What is this topic? What is this concept? You could just ask, and then we'll break it down for free. And now you're learning exactly what you need. You're getting the breakdowns that you need to be able to build your family. That's what this is about. You know what I mean? But select it. All right, so I just read it all the way through. Now we're gonna break it line by line. So wala and not. All right. And not Yah would die. All right. So Yah would die comes from the root word yadai, which means to know. Right. You know that because if you click on the concordance code, it'll say exactly what I just said. Yadai, meaning to know, perceive, to understand, to acknowledge. All right. So that's what I was reading in the English. So the plenteous season rather wouldn't be known because the famine would make us forget again. You know what I mean? Right now, like remember, you know what I mean? You look back at or we in Genesis, so but you like right now you look at when we was in Exodus, I mean, we was in Genesis, the first chapter. You read Genesis, the first chapter. We was crying to the Lord that we wanted to get out of the hand of Egypt. We wanted to get out of the bondage so that we can, you know what I mean? So that we can, we was crying to get out of bondage. You fast forward to Deuteronomy, and we was like, we were reminiscing about the flesh pots, or when we were in captivity. We wanted to be in captivity. We was like, you know what I mean? We should have stayed in Egypt. At least we had the flesh pots. At least we had McDonald's. At least we had Burger King. At least we could just go to a Red Robin and get a fat burger. You know what I mean? At least we had the butcher shops where, I mean, we didn't have to go and hunt for what we was gonna eat. You know what I mean, your oppressor just, you know what I mean, cut the behind off a pig and put it on a plate for you to roast up on Thanksgiving. I mean, or Christmas. You know what I mean? And that's what we depended on. I mean, but when we in, you know what I mean, when we in hell, all we care about is all we care about is our freedom. But as soon as we get our freedom, all we care about all we cared about is all we was thinking about is our captivity. You know what I mean, that's what you're seeing right here. You know what I mean, so it's a time, it's gonna be a time where Pharaoh, you know what I mean, is gonna have some plenteous, you know what I mean, he's gonna be it's times are gonna be plenteous for him, where it's gonna be plenty food, plenty resources and all of that. But as soon as them resources dry up, you know what I mean, anybody gonna be remembering, you know what I mean, the time where things were plenteous, because all they're gonna be thinking about is what their kids is gonna eat today. You know what I mean? Nobody, you know what I mean, well, I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to go too far off. But you know what I mean, all we, you know what I mean, that's it will behoove it will behoove blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to come in the truth, because right now where things are plenteous, you know what I mean, things about to get real grim. You know what I mean? If they not grim enough for us already, you know what I mean, you see what's going on with our people right now. You see that your oppressor is playing in your face right now, you know what I mean, making jokes and calling you all types of racial slurs, and you know what I mean, making racial jokes and all of that in your face, joking about your captivity, and you know what I mean, you see your stars falling in your face. uh it will behoove you to, you know what I mean, come in the truth now and come into this school, you know what I mean, where we welcoming brothers and sisters to learn their culture and identity. But it's like it. This like it. This ain't scripture breakdown class. This is Lashawan Qadash class. We're gonna continue with the Lashawan Qadash, all right? Got any questions about, you know what I mean, scripture breakdown related? You know what I mean, you go ahead and ask them Monday, you know what I mean, Tuesday, Wednesday, brotherhood law class and all of that. But like, all right. So Yahweh die. So la wala'a Yahweh die. So and not remembering. So that Yadai is the root word. So what does that mean? The wa in the middle is a tense. It's a doing tense. So when you see wa in the middle, that means something is being done. So when you're first learning, it's easy to just think about ing. Like what do you think about when you think of ing in English? All right. So do goes from words go from do to doing, talk to talking, think to thinking, so on and so forth. I mean, that's all that wa means. So the root word is you die, you add wa in the middle, ya wa die, right? So it goes from know to knowing, right? Ha shabai. Let's see, right? So shabai is a word that means to be satisfied, to be filled, to have enough, right? Right. Let me see how I can break this. So ha shabai, plenty, the plenty, right? And that word Shabbai also, you might notice from the past lesson with the numbers, Shabbai means seven, right? When the Lord wants to convey, or like when a prophet wants to convey a time span, I can't remember the scripture is right on the tip of my tongue. Uh, not 70 times 7, but there's a scripture that let me think. It's a lot. I can't think of it right now. But a lot of times, like when you read in the scriptures, again, like this is another thing that your Christian pastor is ill equipped to do. When they see numbers and things like that, they take it literal. But when the Most High uses numbers in the Bible, like it's not literal. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we see seven, like that's why when Christ said to forgive your brother 70 times 7, you know what I mean? That's not saying like he's not saying do the math 70 times 7 and whatever that number is, that's how many times you should count on your fingers to forgive your brother. That's not what that's talking about. What that's talking about is enough times, a plenteous amount of times. So lock here. Let me go back to it. A satisfactory amount of time to, you know what I mean? Like I wish I could remember that other one as well. But like when you know what I mean? But that's what seven, like that's where that word comes from. So when you see Shabbai, it means 7, but it also means enough. You know what I mean? And that's why also when you see the word 7 in the Bible, or Shabbai in the Hebrew, it just means a period of time that's satisfactory. You know what I mean? So when it comes to judgment or when it comes to separation, uh that's a perfect example as well. Separation. Like when you unclean, you unclean for 7 days. You know what I mean? Your separation is 7 days. You know what I mean? It's enough time to where, you know what I mean, your uncleanness can, you know what I mean, pass. Right. But that's all that means. Salaki. So Ha Shabbat, the plenty, Ba Arataza, right? Arataza should be a sight word. I'm gonna trust that this is a sight word. You know what I mean? If you click on this concordance code, it's gonna say land or earth. Uh, but you know what I mean? Of course, Arataza should be a word that we should be pretty familiar with. If you're not familiar with it, then you should be asking more questions in the Lashawan Qadash class. I'm gonna leave it at that. But Arataza is your root word meaning land or earth. Ba Arataza, that ba in the beginning means uh it's a preposition meaning in or on, according to your notes. Again, if you don't have these in your notes, then you should just be asking questions. Just ask the question. We, you know what I mean, here in the class, we keep the preposition and possessives on the board. So if you don't have them, you could just write it down or take a picture, or but you should definitely have it in your notes. But also, if you've been if in the school for quite some time, you got a name or you got some rank in the school, you should be pretty familiar with the prepositions and possessives. All right. And you should know that ba is a preposition that means in or on. Now, if you're new to the school, you know what I mean, no pressure. You know what I mean, just get acclimated. Show your worth, show your diligence, show that you know what I mean, show that you're a diligent soldier, show that you're a diligent sister, that you're interested in learning your culture. Because, you know what I mean, brothers, we priests and warriors and soldiers in the school, but like sisters, your mothers. You know what I mean, your mothers, your elder sisters as well. You know what I mean? Like it says, and I believe, I don't want to guess, but it says, let me just paraphrase it, that the aged woman teach the younger women to be, you know what I mean, chaste, to be, you know what I mean, this, that, and the third. You teach the younger women and you also teach the children. So with that being said, you do want to be well versed in your culture and in your language. So there's no exemption for like it says in I can't remember where it's at as well, but where it says neither Greek nor Jew. I mean, that's talking about where it says neither Greek nor Jew, bond nor free, male nor female. See, what your Christian pastor likes to do is focus in on the Greek nor Jews. Because again, when you think of God loves everybody, when you think of John 3:16, you think of your oppressor. So when you read that, I believe it's in Ephesians where it says neither Greek nor Jew. You know what I mean? When you read that, your Christian pastor automatically wants to apply that to God loves everybody. You want to automatically apply that to your oppressor, but it also says male nor female. It says bond nor free. You know what I mean? That male nor female is talking about, you know what I mean? We all have the same responsibility, whether you're, you know what I mean, whether you we all have the responsibility to learn our culture and to keep our culture. You know what I mean? Whether you know what I mean, it don't matter if you're a woman or a male. You know what I mean? As a black, Hispanic, and Native American. I mean, you have the same responsibility. So sisters as well. You know what I mean? You got the same responsibility as a brother to lock in with your culture and ask questions. You know what I mean? Learn your culture and so on. It's a lot. But this should be very easy. Ba is something that you're gonna constantly see throughout the scriptures. It just means in the earth, right? Or in earth, right? It's in the Lord's Prayer as well. That's another concept. Those are other concepts as well that you want to be familiar with. The prayers. You know what I mean, you're going to learn a lot by being able to break down these prayers. So the Lord's Prayer, the Hakat, Psalms 83, Psalms 121. I believe we did most of those breakdowns shy of Psalms 121 and Psalms 83. But uh what's it called? The prayer for the power or the blessings for the teachers, the generals, the officers, teachers, commander, general Hana, all of that. You know what I mean? Breaking down all the prayers that we do during Sabbath service as well. That's going to teach you a lot as well. And that's going to help you be able to retain and remember some of these sight words. All right. So like we just got a little bit more. We're gonna try to push through this. See where we at with time. All right, let's go ahead and all right. Ma Salakia Ma Panya. All right. Let's see. So Panya is an Salakia. So panya is a root word that means it just means panya is just a root word that means before or face or from or what else did it say? Face, presence, countenance, before. All right. So ma panya just means from before, right? Because remember the famine is gonna come after the plentiful years. And what Joseph is saying is that you're not gonna remember the plenteous times in the land that came before the famine, all right, which is Ha Ra'ib, right? You click on that concordance code to lock in. Ra'ib means famine or hunger, right? Ha Ra'ib, the famine. So, like, I'm gonna translate it literal. So, and not remembering the the plenty in the land from before the famine, right? So what he's saying is like you're not gonna remember what happened before the famine, right? That's why in the dream the skinny the skinny cows was swallowing up the fat cows. The skinny, you know what I mean, corn stalks was or the stalks of wheat, I can't remember what it was, but the skinny was devouring the healthy. I mean, you won't remember before the famine. All right. Ha hawa hawa just a root word that means he, his, it, or that, or it, salakia. Ha hawa when you see the it, when you see ha hawa and there's other ways to say it as well. I can't remember off the top of my head uh to say he, his, or it. But when you see the it, ha hawa uh that'll translate to that. To that. There's words to that mean that or this, but when you see the it, that's just uh that's just one of many ways to say that. All right. So ha ha wa ah, the it or that. All right. Acharya. All right, let's check out this concordance code. All right, so after, behind, following, afterward, the hind part after. So achar after. On is like a confirmation. So long story short, just to be firm, to establish or prepare. Thus, so, therefore, rightly, surely, set up right, just, rightly, so, right. So when you see the word con, we use it in the school. Uh, it means yes as well, but a lot of times when you see it in the scriptures as well, it'll mean yes as well, but it also is just like it's like a reassurance or a confirmation, right? Uh, to assure that this thing is going to happen, right? Which is what Joseph is doing right here. So Khan, Kaya means for or to you. Ka means to. Uh, Ya means or select, or just to make it simple, is for, or that's the simple. That's the most common with for right here. For, right? For, because, when, if, surely, indeed, right? But for the most part, it's going to be used as for. Kaya, for, kabad, right? And this is the word I was stuck on earlier. Remember, a lot of times when I was saying earlier, like when I be reading, I kind of pause. I'll pause as I'm reading it because I'll recognize something, even though I'm not really familiar with this word. I'll recognize it in a brother's name, right? This word means heavy, weighty, burdensome, honored, important, right? I can't remember the brother's name. Uh, can't remember the brother's name. I don't want to mess it up. But yeah, I mean, if you could think of any word that has, or it's like any brother rather that has this word in their name, kabod. I believe it's a brother out of California. But again, I'm not really familiar, or I can't think of it right now. But uh, if you could think of, what I mean, if you, that's an easy way to remember root word. Long story short, if you can remember a brother's name, you can recall a brother's name, then it'll make it easy for certain words to be sight words. You know what I mean? Like if a brother has the word amath in their name, even if you've never met this brother, you know that that word means truth. Uh, if any brother has one of the 12 tribes as a name, like Issachar, Reuben, or Yashakar, Ra'alban, Banyamin, uh, Gad, uh, Yahawada. You know what I mean? Any brother that has a word or a name that comes from one of the 12 tribes, you should know what each one of those 12 tribes mean. Uh Gabar is is a common one, which means warrior. You know what I mean? If a brother has a name that ends with Gabar, you know what I mean, or starts with Gabar, you know what I mean? You know that means warrior. Uh what else? Kahan, you know what I mean? A brother has the word Kahan in their name, you know that means priest, right? So certain words that you see in brothers' names, and that's why it's if you want to learn the Hebrew, just a sidebar, if you want to learn the Hebrew and you're kind of leery on how to do it or where to start with meeting your brothers. Start with getting acquainted with your family and building a relationship with these brothers in here that you took an oath with. You know what I mean, that you go to camp with. Some of you have gone through Hebrew Academy with, or some of you right now, you going through Hebrew Academy right now with them. You know what I mean? If I know a lot of times, you know what I mean, learning the Hebrew can be kind of it can be kind of discouraging, or like brothers just don't want to, you know what I mean? It's just harder to do it because we already divided by so many languages. You got to learn, you had to learn your home language, where whether it's English or Spanish or Patois or Creole or whatever the case is, and then you come to a different country. You know what I mean? And then you got to learn their language to try to communicate with their people. And then now you got to learn Hebrew. You know what I mean? Which is a language. The ancient Hebrew is a language that's not commonly spoken. You know what I mean? Because your oppressor in the Jewish synagogues, they don't speak ancient Hebrew. They speak Yiddish, which is a bastardized version of the ancient Hebrew. You know what I mean? So I understand it might be tedious, but if you want to find an easy and fun and, you know what I mean, an interactive way to learn the Hebrew, just learn your brothers. Spend time with your brothers. Learn your brothers' names. Learn what their names mean. Learn what their, you know what I mean, how they got their name. You know what I mean? Learn their works. Get to know that brother. You know what I mean? Live with that brother. Suffer with that brother. You know what I mean? Work with that brother. Work side by side with that brother. Go to camp with that brother. War with that brother. And I guarantee this Hebrew will be rooted and etched in you. You know what I mean? To where it's going to be hard for you to forget. It's going to be hard for you to forget. You're not going. You might. You're not going to open up the Hebrew dictionary. You're not going to open up Bible Hub and remember every single word, but you are going to remember that brother that picked you up when, you know what I mean, when you fell, when you were knocked over. You know what I mean? That brother that let you sleep on his couch. You're going to remember that brother. Or if you had to help a brother if you had to pick up a brother, you're going to remember that brother's name. You're going to remember that brother's face. You know what I mean? You had to war with that brother. You had to go to ground. You know what I mean? You look at the Kentucky 8 or the or KC4. You know what I mean? You remember the brothers from Acuna. You know what I mean? You might not remember the Hebrew. You know what I mean? You might, you know what I mean? Because I know we all got different accents and different, you know what I mean? We come from different walks of life, different areas of the world. So we might have different accents. But it might be harder for you to speak the Hebrew, but it's not hard for you to remember your brother who you went into level 4 cartel territory for and almost died for. You know what I mean? So learn your brothers. If it's hard for you to learn this Hebrew, no sweat. Just learn your brothers. Remember your brothers. Learn their names. Learn their struggles. Learn their lifestyles. You know what I mean? Learn their kids' names. You know what I mean? Offer your, you know what I mean? Offer your services. You know what I mean? I know his brothers. I remember also Raul out of UK. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I know brothers are looking for brothers to fill up offices. You know what I mean? Offices for Shamar, for the food service department, for the, you know what I mean? I mean, you don't remember the Hebrew? No sweat. Learn brothers' names through the work. Do the work. Work with these brothers, and you'll be able to remember. Be able to remember brothers' names. Remember their rank. Remember the services that they've done in the past. I mean, remember their reputation, and that'll help you remember the Hebrew. If you needed any uh encouragement or confirmation or you know what I mean, that's a good way to go about it. All right. So Kabad Salaki. I can't remember that brother's name. I know there's a brother with the word Kabad in their name, but the word Kabad means severe. All right. If you know the brother's name, you know what I mean, get it, you know what I mean, put that brother's name in the chat. You know what I mean? Refresh your brother's memory. Salaki. Uh Hawa'a again, it means it. Hawa'a means it. And then Ma'ad. Ma'ad means very, exceedingly, much, greatly, vehemently, wholly, or speedily. You know, be verily or exceedingly or much. These are going to be the most commonly, right? But that's what that word means. All right. Well, this if you go through these, if you go through each one of these verses, like again, we're going to be going through the next 49 verses, the Lashawan Qadash, during Sabbath service, right? We're gonna be going through the next 49 verses of Sabbath service. But I promise you, each one of those verses or each one of those, yeah, each one of those verses is gonna go just like that. You're just gonna be going phrase by phrase and just be reading it, breaking down the root word from the preposition, possessive, intensive. You're gonna be reading it just like that. It's gonna be the same thing, right? It's just repetition. You might start off slow. It might go from let me put it back on the screen. Salakia. So instead of you might start off instead of going wala ah, so like instead of going wala ah, yawadai ha shabai ba rataza. Instead of going line by, you might go ha wa ah wa It's like a Shah would die, or it's like a Yah would die. You might go line by line. You might stutter. You might make a mistake. You know what I mean? It might take you a little bit longer. You might have to go slow. But whether you're able to read it fast or slow, you know what I mean? It's going to be the same process. You know what I mean? And the more you go through the process, the more you get acclimated with the process, the more efficient that you'll be with reading Lashawan Qadash. And that's the whole point, right? So the Lord willing, eventually, you know what I mean, by the time Christ cracked the sky and we able to get up out of this hell, you know what I mean? Because we see it with our culture. You know what I mean? We'll have our language. You know what I mean? But with that, let me see where we at. With that, we'll end it right there. I'm gonna say Imagine, which means to stand. Okay, let me stand the screen. Give a courtesy salute to the brothers. My spot, Imagine, right? Y'all by Trinity out Chabra Thug. Y'all do a tie, star, certificate. Spot, Imagine, right? Now it's tomorrow. Let's talk about Trinity out Chab. Y'all do a tie.